Welcome to the Exceptional Sales Leader Podcast with Darren Mitchell. If you're a sales leader looking to take your leadership to a whole new level, then this is the podcast for you. We'll be exploring tips, techniques, and strategies to help you take your leadership to the exceptional level and allow you to enjoy more money, more meaning, and better sales results. Welcome back to the Exceptional Sales Leader Podcast, and a very special welcome. I must say, this is quite unique for me because I'm not normally talking to somebody that is coming in from what looks like a very, very well set up doctor's office in Dallas, in
Looks
Texas.
sterile, doesn't it, Darren?
Well, it does, and it's just it looks very medical. Let's just say. Mr. Rome Madison, welcome to the podcast, coming in all the way from Dallas in Texas. How are you, my friend?
Unbelievable, Darren. I really appreciate the opportunity to connect with you. I love your podcast and the guests that you have on. It really is practically and useful information for people who are sales leaders and aspire to be sales leaders out there. So I really appreciate the opportunity to come and chat with you.
Excellent. I'm glad we're connected, and I must publicly also thank you because we were going to do this 7 days ago, and fortunately for me, unfortunately for you, had a booking to do a leadership program, so I had to push it forward a week. So I greatly appreciate your flexibility. So for the listeners' benefit, you're currently the president at Genomic Selling Solutions, the founder of the Genetics for Healthcare podcast. You're also the author of The Sales Elite. So we're going to talk about lots of stuff related to sales and sales leadership. Maybe we'll touch on things like confidence, but I'd love you to start with just a little bit about your background and what you got in, what got you into the field that you're currently in. And I'm not gonna try to even explain the industry that you're in, but I'd love you to, for the listeners who are plugging into this, which will be a lot of them, just a bit of your background and what has led you to do the great work that you're doing today.
Well, I appreciate that. In a nutshell, and this is the way I love to explain it, Darren. I'm a confidence coach for money motivated individuals, full stop. And we solve problems for people. And I believe that you are compensated as a business person, as a salesperson, to the direct value that you bring to other people when you solve their problems, right? And so when you unlock things, when you elevate someone's thinking, when you inspire, when you actually solve a tactical problem, you create value in the marketplace that you should be compensated for. So I want to, at the beginning, just kind of talk to those people who have those self-doubts, those life experiences that they carry around with them like luggage. Because even though you don't try intentionally to keep those as stumbling blocks or obstacles for reasons why you couldn't accomplish something in the past, I just want to address those from the very top of this because just like many of the people that you've interviewed, books that you can read, I didn't start with any advantages in life. So um, I grew up in a neighborhood of kids. There were no fathers. There is a college professor, child psychologist by the name of Kwanzaa Kunjufu, who says a home without a father is is not good, it's bad, but a neighborhood without fathers is a disaster. And
Mm,
so growing up in small town Texas, raised on welfare, I didn't know that we were, broke. Broke is just simply the state of having no money. Poor is a state of mind. But we were
yeah.
broke, right? And I didn't know that we were, below the poverty line just because everybody around me grew up the same way. But I just want to take away those excuses. When you're raised by a single mom, raised three kids, and on welfare, um, although my mother did go to college, she's the first college graduate in our family. She struggled with her mental health, and
Okay.
being a single mom with no help will certainly do that. So I've gone through. I was an athlete. My athletic ability got me the opportunity to go to college. Went through college, and when you go and you play big time college football here in America, they have a way of letting you know what your priorities are. So That degree that I have behind me says general studies. And
General studies.
I don't mind telling people that my GPA was 2.5. Now, it doesn't make you look great going into the sales force, but here's the thing. I believe it was one of my favorite speakers in the world, Jim Rohn, who said, a formal education will make you a living, but self-education will make you a fortune.
Yeah.
And I always remembered that. And so there came a time in my life when I got into sales because I felt that was the area I wanted to make my mark. My compensation is variable. Depending upon my efforts and my ability to help people solve their problems, I'll be compensated according to the value that I bring. I was all for it. And then I eventually targeted the pharmaceutical industry, healthcare sales, because hey, if they make the most, that's where I want to play. And I found myself in 1 year out of work, unemployed. And I'm sure many of the people who might listen to this podcast have been in that season of transition before.
Hmm.
On top of that, my mother, who raised 3 kids, our best friend, um, at this time, she struggled with her mental health and had a third and most debilitating mental breakdown. My mother has passed since then, but at that time, over 2 decades ago, we're talking, Darren, that I would go to sleep at night when my mom had this issue. She spiraled into a life of homelessness. She lost her job. The most important thing is she lost her health benefits, and she couldn't keep the medications, that maintain her health and quality of life. And so, you know, living 500 miles away, getting calls from home, from your family, friends, and people like, hey, we saw your mother, this, that, and the other. It was
Mm.
just a nightmare during the time that I was unemployed. But here's the stroke that changed everything for me. Sometimes you get to a place where you have no confidence or belief, or you are starting to be dominated by those negative thoughts, those dark thoughts.
Mm.
Rock bottom is not a destination. I'm a believer, and I just believe the creator or whoever made the rock put it there so you can bounce off of it and rise. And so it was during that time where I got the opportunity to interview for the first company that had any type of molecular, we call it a molecular assay, a test where you took human cells, put them in a scientific petri dish environment, and did some things to them and see how they react to cancer medications. Um, the idea was they needed someone who with either hospital experience, laboratory experience, or oncology experience. I had none of them. But what I did have is time.
Yeah.
So when the recruiter, whom at this time I was dealing with him for 3, 4, 5 months, he knew I was a good candidate, but it's easier to get a job when you already got a job. He said, listen, I want to put you up for this because they can't really find good candidates. He sent me the 10-foot tall job description. And what I did is I went to Barnes and Nobles. I went to Borders Books. I mean, you guys remember we used to go to bookstores
That's
to buy
right.
books and drink coffee. Now we go to coffee shops and bring our
Every
books and
books.
buy coffee. Right. But the reason I did that is because I didn't have the money to buy the books. I was out of work and didn't have that excess, disposable cash. So I
Yeah.
would go and copy, out of the books, Cancer for Dummies, books around colorectal cancer or breast cancer. And I learned early as much as I could independently. Well, that was the same year the Human Genome Project completed. The project that took 13 years, $20 billion. We sequenced the whole genome. We know what the genes are. We don't really know what they do. And since that time, when I got in the industry, I've grown with that knowledge. I've grown with the clinicians who were training in medical school at that time. And I was going around representing this new and innovative technology. And as they grew through their training and matriculated in their careers, I grew with them as the industry grew. And I became a sales leader, a commercial leader, strategy. And now I have a platform that teaches these genetic and genomic insights to the lay audience,
Mm.
to the everyday consumer, so they can have the language and the confidence to become better advocates for their health using these genetic insights. So they can have these conversations with their doctors and their family members.
Wow. That is amazing. There's a few things in that. The first thing is can we talk a little bit about confidence? Because you often talk about the fact that confidence is not, you're not born with confidence. It's something that you engineer, you actually develop confidence through taking action. Because there'll be people listening to this thinking, wow, and probably putting themselves in your shoes and thinking, wow, I've been unemployed, I've been down in the dumps, I've had rejection, I've had obstacles to deal with, but I've never had the confidence to go and do that. So what was it that what did you learn about yourself through that process? Was it a fact, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but was it something that this is what I just have to do? Was there something that you'd learnt from somebody? Was it a lesson perhaps from your mum that you took on that enabled you to take those steps? Because it's not just taking the first step, it's actually taking the constant steps that then led to the next opportunity, and here you are today. So can you just
Yeah.
talk a little bit about confidence and how that happened for you?
Yes. So I will tell you that, we all know that people are born, some people are born with just, an inherent, belief in themselves, right? That's unnatural to other people. We don't know why, but they just really believe in themselves and it doesn't make sense to us. Well, I wasn't one of those people, although I have all the reasons in the world to be confident, based on my background. It was just in me. I didn't grew up in an environment where confidence just wasn't spoken into me. So what I learned along the way is how to activate confidence in critical moments that can help you get more of what you
Hmm.
want in that moment or that situation. But that has everything to do with the way that you show up, increasing your persuasive ability, and getting people to buy in by establishing rapport. So there is a framework, even when I go back to, struggling with the year of unemployment and my mother's life unraveling. There's a three-part process that can be applied to any situation, not only in the moment to
Hmm.
activate confidence in a conversation or a negotiation, or looking at it organizationally as a leader and how you make an organization more confident. But the basic framework is self acceptance, self competence, and strategy.
Mm.
Now, again, this can be applied in any situation, and we'll talk about those things. But here's the reality of what I learned um, in that situation where it was hard for me to sometimes wake up because I did not know where my mother was. I didn't know if she was dead or alive. I didn't know if she was sick or well. I didn't know if she was hungry, cold.
Mm.
You have to get to a place now. I'm a believer and I can't separate, my belief in my faith from who I am, Darren. So
Yeah, absolutely.
you have to believe in something that is bigger than you. I simply believe that whoever created me designed my path, that it happened not to me, but it happened for me. I
Mm.
believe that these obstacles, these hurdles, these dark times in life, even the things that we feel that might be unbearable, come to us so we can grow through it, not just go through it, but become a bigger and better person because of it. So even in the midst of my mother spiraling out of control, I felt that there was something bigger there. The bigger the hurdle, the bigger the obstacle, the bigger the blessing has got to be. So I just believed at my core with a sense of integrity that
Yeah.
there's a kernel of growth, there's a kernel of benefit there in whatever I was going through. So what I learned to do in this self-acceptance phase, Darren, is to not wish things were different. I had to wish that I was better. I had to wish that I was more focused because I could not do anything about my mother's situation and what I could not control. I
Yep.
had to wish that I was sharper, smarter, more skilled, more self-aware. And so I spent that time during that year that I was unemployed, going and learning about this, having to reinforce myself. Hey, there's got to be some other job that I can get besides going to Barnes and Nobles and studying cancer. Good Lord. Like there's got to be something else. But what kept me going is thinking, this is going to be an amazing story. This is going to be like like something that is really going to change me, somebody who's working through me to reach other people. There was something bigger than me. And you've got to accept that with a sense of integrity to keep going through it and moving to it. You may not know what that bigger picture is,
Yeah.
but if you accept that the things are the way they are today, no matter what your situation is, and they've come to make you better,
Yeah.
that the things that happened had to happen to get you to grow into the person you need to be who can do the things that only you can do. That's where I started. And that's where everybody has to start with a level of confidence. Listen, the greatest college football coach in America is Nick Saban. And when they used to write about his teams, because they were always number one or number two, he would call that rat poison. He says, don't read your own press. It's rat poison. You have to constantly get into a mode of reinforcing what makes you special and accept that. Not comparing yourself to anyone else, because you're the only you there ever has been and ever will be. So it's up to you to be the best you that you can be
Mm.
in this moment and going forward. So that self-acceptance is a pretty big part. It goes wide and it goes deep. The second
Mm.
thing is self-proficiency. Self, um, self, um, you can edit this. Self, uh, uh, the second thing is self-competence. Once you
Self-confidence. Yeah.
understand and you've owned where you are, there's a delta between where you are and where you want to be. And it's important to take the inventory on what you can and what you can't do to order in order to make sure that you can accomplish the goals that you have. There's growth that you're going to be required to do.
Mm.
In a matter of confidence, we are more confident when we are more proficient, when we have mastery over certain skills. When you start to do something, the hardest thing to accomplish any goal is getting started because you got so much burden on your mind about how good you're not and how much you don't know that you don't even get in there and slop it up
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
learn along the way. It's the
And
fastest
often
way to.
we, sorry to interrupt. And often we, in that sort of process, we tend to compare ourselves to others who we think are more proficient or more competent. And we say, oh man, I could never be like Rome. Look at him. But then you're sitting there thinking, if they only knew, if, because I often say to salespeople and sales leaders, and I use this analogy, we only have to be one trick ahead of the dog. So you don't have to be the world-class expert in order to pour into another person your lessons, your experience, your knowledge. You just have to be one step ahead of them, right? But it
That's right.
presupposes that you've got to always be a step ahead, which means you've got to be following somebody who is a step ahead of you. So never ever stop. You'll never ever arrive. So it's a
That's
constant
right.
process.
And it's not to be too hard on ourselves. Comparing ourselves to others is a natural thing because it gives us some level of awareness of kind of where we are, but we can't own it. We can't
Mm.
look at that and say, we attach meaning to those things that says, oh, he's 6'3", I'm 5'2". That's why he's so good. Oh, he's got a master's degree, and that's why he's good. We attach meaning to those things, right? So
Yeah.
that's the acceptance piece, understanding that you are perfectly equipped to accomplish anything that you can set your mind to. But the second thing is to develop the competencies that you need to be successful in the
Mm.
things that you want to do. And if you stay consistent and you become a master at that, you become one of the influencers, you become one of the experts in the space that
Yeah.
people trust. And then the
Mm.
third thing along that really completes the trifecta of confidence in any situation is your strategy.
Yeah.
When I was struggling, did have a job, the strategy that I had was, listen, I've got 10 hours a day. I don't have a job. Like I can send a couple of emails to recruiters, but the rest of the time I gotta go and study, figure out breast cancer. Like,
Yeah.
and then here's the other thing. I learned that this was a language. Doctors, attorneys, plumbers, these people who are professionals, they get premium fees. They speak a different language.
Yes.
So my strategy was, how do I learn the language? I had to get a Mosby's medical dictionary to read through these things. And when I came to a word, I'd looked it up in the dictionary and I thought, this is what they pay doctors for. Like I'd had to learn to speak the language. And so you've got to have a strategy. And it is the strategy that is the delta when you are accepting of what makes you
Mm,
special and unique and differentiates you as a brand in the marketplace, as a leader or anything else. When you are competent, you're aware of your competence, you lean into your strengths and you shore up and work on those things that are weaknesses in your
mm,
game, and you develop a strategy. That is the key to confidence in any situation, whether it is situational or organizational.
mm.
And when you see failures, it's usually one of those three that are missing.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that. So when you, as you were going through, because I want to fast forward to the point where you're walking in and talking to doctors, people with PhDs, and basically having the right to sit at the same table because of all the work that you'd done, the self-proficiency, the competence, the education that you did for yourself. As you go back to Jim Rohn saying that, the self-education is going to make you a fortune. In that process, in that 12 months, when you're sitting down at Barnes and Noble doing all the writing, learning more about the breast cancer and all the colon cancer and stuff like that, what actually happened in terms of how long did it take you and the process you went through to get that particular role? Because I'm going to make an assumption. This could be a wrong assumption. I'm going to make the assumption that you're up against people who perhaps may have been more credentialed, had more experience. But what was it, do you think, looking back, as to why they chose you for that particular role?
So that's a great question. So it just so happened in the time frame to give you, so I was out of work for a year, but this opportunity came around like 6 months into my unemployment. So at this time, I'm like pulling out my hair. You see, I don't have no hair. So by that time, I'm pulling out my hair. And so when I got this role, I looked at it and I couldn't even read through the job description or whatever. But the more direct route is when I dedicated myself to it. Okay. When I dedicated myself to the process, I had to go through this framework of activating my personal power, activating my confidence on a daily basis. Self-acceptance, self-confidence. I knew more now than I knew yesterday about breast cancer, but I'm gonna know more tomorrow than
Mm,
I know today about breast cancer. It was really that process that got through it. And so as it goes, it took 6 months, 3 to 4 months really, to get this job. Um, when I was given the job description by the recruiter that we were talking about, they had tried to hire someone else and that person fell through. So the job opened back up. That's kind of what the conversation was. And
okay.
so once I got the opportunity to do this, um, I came in confident because here's the deal. And we can, man, this is a whole nother thing, but I'm gonna just put a pin in this. I knew when I showed up that I may not know all of the things that I might need to know to be successful at this job. But I know one thing, the thing that people buy at the end of the day is me. So I was sold on my ability to be successful in that job. And so the energy and the confidence of which I spoke and represented myself from the very first conversation is what made me stand out in the mind of that interviewing
Mm,
the hiring manager.
yeah.
What was supposed to be 3 interviews over about a month became six in about 4 months. Because every time they went through this, the hiring manager, whose name is Pat Coombs, he became a mentor to me. Very, very dear friend today. Every time he would say, "Yeah, but they're not better than this guy," and the people would look at his peers would say, "This guy, like this general studies dude, like the football player." Like, how in the world is he? How is he sharper than this, rep that sells, a breast cancer product, or this other sales rep who's in the hospital operating room now doing surgeries? Like, how's that happen? What he saw, he could not deny. And so that gave me more opportunity to learn, and stay in the game longer till I became the rep that knew more about the product than anybody they had talked to. And they wondered after individuals, group interviews, and they wondered, how did you learn this? Like, because this was so new at the time. They were like, how did you know this?
Yeah.
Because I had more time and I was dedicated to learning and having these conversations and understanding the language. And so it was the obvious choice. I got the job. Here's the kicker. Within the next 8 years, that regional vice president that hired me in the business, I hired as an individual contributor on my team when I became a vice president of sales. Pat Coons.
So man, that is amazing. Because I was going to ask you, that's a great story. I was going to ask you, did you ever sit down with Pat and ask the question in terms of what was it about me, in terms of the characteristics? Because I often say to sales leaders when it comes to hiring people, because this is a gross generalization. Most sales leaders in most organizations typically go to the same well. They must have demonstrated experience in this industry, always overachieving. All right. There's a whole host of things they look at on the surface. But I've always prided myself on look for what are the specific characteristics of the individual that you think will complement what we have that might be a differentiator for our team and therefore our business. Did you ever sit down with Pat and ask him what was it about me? All right. Because I'm sure that through that process over 6 interviews over 4 months, he would have been having people in his ears saying, "Why this guy? General studies. He's a football jock. What's going on?" Right? What was it about you that he continued to persist? Was there something specific that he saw in you that has become almost like one of the catalysts for your sustainability in this industry?
Yes. So it really is. And so one of the things I write about is one of my brand signatures is star power. Okay. When when I was working unemployed and I was talking to the headhunter, now, Darren, you remember the term, I don't even know if it's used anymore, that when recruiters were looking for, a talented sales rep, they'd say, I want a superstar. We want
Yeah,
superstars,
yeah.
right? And that's what that headhunter said. They want a superstar. And I'm like, well, what's that? Like, what do you mean by superstar, right? And that was just a common refrain for, medical sales and all these things. So, when I got it, um, Pat told me, he said, I could see the light inside of your eyes. He says, you had the it factor that I
Hmm.
knew that no matter what you did, you were going to be successful. Didn't
Hmm.
really necessarily matter if you knew the language as you did. I could have taught you that. But
Yeah.
what you cannot give someone is the light that burns inside of them. So when they are doing their thing at a high level, they become a light to other people that
Mm.
inspires them to want to reach that level in themselves. So no matter what you're selling, no matter what problem you're solving, there is a quality of person. And I've captured that concept in my book, The Sales Elite. And it's about those superstar sales reps. And there's three tiers that I write about. The top tier being is the superstar sales professional.
Mm.
And it is that X factor with those people. Sure, they're talented. Yes, they know their information. Yes, they can learn the basic tools and techniques of what it means to be successful in sales and business. But that X factor that makes a superstar sales professional stand out is something that you just can't teach other people. And it's
Mm.
infectious no matter where they go, no matter what
Yeah.
product they sell. They can go from one organization to the next, and whatever they're selling, their customers are going to buy it.
Which brings back the adage or the saying that people end up buying from people who they know, like, trust, and remember. And it's how you make people feel, whether it be you as a sales professional, but also as a sales leader, that is very attractive to people who want to work for you. The same would apply to a sales leader. What is that it factor? Why do people come back every single day, and why do they choose to follow you in that particular role? I love that because, as he was saying, he's saying it doesn't matter what the product was, what the service was, you were going to be successful because you had that component that not everybody has.
And I'll be honest with you, it's not like I knew that. It's not like, it's not like I cultivated that. What I had is that I had that desperate burning desire that that comes through trial, that
Yeah.
comes through hard times, the
Yeah.
type of hunger that you can get only through, quite frankly, pain and discomfort. Um, and so activating that confidence every day, even when the issues of life pressed on me from every side, that I would have a reason to not feel confident about who I am and what my destiny is. I had to go through that framework every day, at a conscious level. And it's not like I had a methodology back then, but looking back at my situation and then studying the success paths of other great people who've accomplished far greater things than me in life and business, it really is that framework that comes into mind over and over again. And you can do that even in a moment.
Mm. And I love that self-acceptance, self-professionally, self/self-confidence, and also having a strategy. Um, going through it though, because I do want to talk about adversity, because there'll be people listening to this that um, probably know deep down they're more capable than what the results are currently saying, but often the results are their reality. What kept you going? Because even when you had 12 months out of work, you got an opportunity at the 6 month mark. You were going to Barnes and Noble, you're going and reading all those books and learning more and more about cancer and learning the language. There was still no guarantee. So for people going through their own challenges right now, and we've got those three things, and we'll certainly encourage people to get the book as well. Um, Adversity is something that everybody faces in some way, shape, or form. Was there anything else that at least got you to get up the next day and keep moving forward? Was there, and it could be faith, it could be something else, but was there something that just said to you, you know what, I'm not going to give up here? Because many people would. And there's a famous book, 3 Feet from Gold, where people often stop just before they're about to have a breakthrough. Looking back, was there something within your character traits? Was it something in your background? Was it something you perhaps learnt from your mentors or even from your mum in terms of what she was going through that just said to you, just keep going, right? It'll be okay.
Yeah, I gotta say that, my mother and my grandfather, my mother's father, were those role models for me in life that essentially took away all my excuses. My grandfather, was born, in, you know, the Chickasaw Indian Territory in southern Oklahoma in 1920. Um, went to the military when he was 15 years old, along with his big brother, and he changed his last name from Wafer to Jackson so they can go in the military and be stationed together. And my grandfather was that person that, if I can read it, I can do it. And so he became a mechanic in the military. He ended up working for AT&T once he, got out of the military and created essentially a middle class lifestyle, which is, no easy feat for a black man in 1950.
Mm,
So he became, a lineman. He also, uh, when I was born, he had a hog farm, a pig farm. So like that was he came home, that was his business, his side hustle, if you want to say that, but it was a pretty major enterprise. And so growing up with, that story of a man who's living the American dream, who, his mother dealt with, mental, health challenges and died at an early age. And he was on his own in his mid-teens, which is why he went to the military.
yeah,
And so creating that kind of life and having that kind of can-do attitude and spirit was inspiring for me. My mother, in a family of 9 kids, was the first college graduate. She had a child when she was 17 years old in 1967. Set out, went back to graduate high school, went to junior college, and she eventually went to the University of Texas and graduated with her bachelor's in business. So
mm,
that is a backdrop for me, despite the things that were going on in my life, just served as a tangible example of what was possible. And that's all I needed. If you could tell me that it was possible and point to someone who had done it before and overcame, obstacles, that was enough for me. And
yeah,
during this time when I was unemployed, what I filled my mind with were the stories of people that I admired, autobiographies, Bernie Mac, the history of Malcolm X, autobiography of
Mm.
Malcolm X, Frank Sinatra. Like you and like I read about these people and their struggles, and I personalized them that said, if it is possible that someone can overcome odds, then I can do it too. And so that's what kind of kept me going because the alternative was not pretty. And so I had to commit.
Yep.
And when you commit and you have that level of faith and confidence, everything, every molecule in your body directs energy in the direction of where you're going because what you want in life also wants you.
Mm.
The people that you work with to get the things that you want in life want you to be successful. And
Yep.
we have to overcome those voices of doubt in our head that say other things to us because of all the creatures that God created, we are the ones who have that ability to change the channel in our minds and to think and build upon our thoughts or let those thoughts take away from us in our magic every day.
Absolutely. Absolutely love that. Um, so in that sort of vein, it would be remiss of me not to ask you this question around imposter syndrome, right?
Mhm.
And how I guess most people have an element of it to some degree. Um, how would you describe it, and how would you describe your, I guess, your relationship with this concept of imposter syndrome as you've gone through your career? Was it something that you found relatively challenging to deal with, or was it something you acknowledged and just and moved on despite?
You know, one of the reasons I'm so passionate about teaching this and have helped others is because I have a very intimate knowledge of them, especially around imposter syndrome and activating confidence. And again, I want to reinforce that confidence is not a destination.
Mm,
You just don't do something and you get there and you're forever confident. And you're not going to be confident at all times in all things that you do.
yeah.
Confidence wavers. I mean, we look at golfers, we look at professional athletes. Confidence wavers. When you've got it going, all of the energy that surrounds you, that comes from the cells in your body, moves you in a direction. But when it wavers, there's a
Mm,
frequency disturbance. So, imposter syndrome, as defined, you can look it up anywhere, is the consistent inability to believe with integrity that you have what it takes to be successful, despite the fact that you've had success in your past, despite the fact that you have evidence that you have the ability, the knowledge, and skill and track record to continue to be successful. And
mm,
guess what? This is not foreign to anyone. I hope the folks who are listening to this can relate. I know there's certainly some people that can't, but there are really famous people that have dealt with imposter syndrome. Will Smith has dealt with imposter syndrome. There have been presidents.
mm,
George W. Bush is one of them who said there's been moments when been so overwhelmed that he felt that he was battling imposter syndrome, like you should not be here. But it really does come back to grounding ourselves in that framework because there's always reasons to compare ourselves versus someone else. It's a measuring stick, and that's
yeah.
human of us to do is to measure ourselves against someone else to say, hey, where is my progress? Can I gauge, where I am, how good I am on these things? But it is that constant battle of the voices in your head that says, you're not worthy, you're not
Mm,
good enough, you don't have enough of.
yeah.
Even in my career, classic case early on, what I learned, um, I had imposter syndrome because it just didn't seem right. I'm learning all this stuff and I'm going in and talking to doctors and they don't know what I'm talking about. So I had to like, am I sounding stupid? Do I sound dumb? Do they not understand what I'm talking about? But eventually I understood that they don't because they haven't studied what I've studied. They haven't read the books that I've read. They've been practicing,
Mm,
medicine for 20 years, but when they trained, they weren't training on this. And so that's how I began to know is by having more and more conversations. And I understood that some people understand this, the experts,
Yep.
understand this? The vast majority don't. And
Yep.
so I gained credibility and respect from those experts that built my confidence and let me know that I was on the right track. So no matter what you do, we can be susceptible to imposter syndrome. But you've got to know, first of all, and ground yourself in that worthiness, that
Yeah.
if there's anybody who's ever been worthy and prepared to do something, it's you.
Yeah.
And just to continue to make those steps and those strides. Every day you can stack up wins. Every day you can make an effort to grow, improve by 1%. And if
Mm.
you continue to do that, most people won't. If you do today what other people don't, you'll have tomorrow what other people won't, is the thing that I like to say. But that's how you battle imposter syndrome, continuing to reinforce yourself, your worthiness, and your ability, and then tweaking your strategy to make sure that you stay in the zone.
And I love that. And the fact that you use the analogy, well, the actual strategy of let's just improve by 1% today, but I'm going to improve by another 1% tomorrow, which means I'm constantly looking at how I can get better and make progress. And it's actually, I'm never going to arrive at a destination. I'm just going to be a constant and never-ending improving person to get better, and not compare myself to others. And not, I mean, when I say compare, you could look at others and elicit strategies from them in terms of how they do things that you could perhaps take on board to improve your progress. But the big thing is don't be envious of others. Don't compare yourself with others. Oh my God, Rome's so much better than me. He's been running a podcast 7 years longer or 5 years longer, and he's got X number of more subscribers. Oh my God, I'm not worthy. No, no. What can I learn from that I can instill in what I do to help me get better, so I can be of more service to my audience? That's the attitude we have to take on board.
Absolutely. For every situation like that, we've got to be mindful of the meaning that we ascribe to those differences,
Mm,
right? So if someone has, 100,000 podcast, followers, I don't, I can say, well, I don't have them yet, right? Or I don't have them because I haven't done the strategies
yeah.
that I know that can grow them. I've got to find out what those people are doing and just go
Mm,
out there and learn as much as you can and implement in ways that you can. You will see growth. You
mm.
will see growth.
Absolutely, absolutely. So for the people that you currently work with, and you do a lot of keynotes, you work with a lot of organizations, obviously doing the podcast. Um, how do you help keep them, I guess, thinking about these things, self-acceptance, self-competency, and strategy, when the general society is saying, "Hey, have everything now."
Hmm.
Instant gratification, um, clickbait, TikTok. How do you sit down? Because I'm sure there's people you might talk to on a one-to-one basis who want to pick your brains, want to understand. So, Rome, how did you get so successful? I want to be like you. And yet, how do you now communicate with them? Well, do a little bit today, a little bit tomorrow, stay the course. It's almost like, how do you explain that to somebody when a society, and when I say society, this is general, but also I see this in sales as well. They want instant results. The sales leaders want instant results. The chief revenue officers want instant results. What's the message to people that say, hey, we've got to invest and we've got to continue to invest in the right areas so we can get that return and not necessarily play the instant gratification short term game?
Yeah, a lot of that has to do with the advent of social media, right? That we can see, and we're constantly filled with images of success, and that is so present, in our conscious that we feel that that's kind of how it works, right? What we've got to do, and that is incumbent upon the leader. When a leader casts a vision in an organization, a leader has to be confident of the strategy it takes to get there. And a strategy is not instant. A strategy takes consistent effort over time with the proper benchmarks, KPIs, and all those things to monitor progress towards improvement.
Mm,
And it really is being brilliant with the basics. And that's what makes exceptional leaders, in my opinion. If you're going to be an exceptional sales leader, you can't forget that it took you years to learn how to be an effective contributor.
Mm,
When contributors get promotions and then become leaders, there are reasons why they don't succeed at leadership, but those who do succeed and ultimately become great leaders are the ones who impress upon themselves that continued process of learning and growth, that
mm,
there is a delta, there's things that they do not know now that they're in that leadership position, and they seek out mentorship, they seek
mm.
out coaching, they seek out professional development, and it never stops. Anybody who believes that they've gotten there and rise is just like a banana. You're either green and you're growing, or you're ripe and you're rotting.
I love that. I love that. And those that I've never used the banana analogy. I use an apple a lot, and I say exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
But the other thing I wanted to pick up with your point there was these people are also the ones that will invest in themselves. They're not going to wait for the company to invest in their professional development. It's as you rightly said in the three strategy, it's the self-competence. It's working on yourself. How can you get better? And even today, I'm staggered at the number of sales leaders uh, who want the development, but they expect the company to fund it or they expect the company to organize it. There's nothing stopping any sales leader listening to this from going in and seeking their own development, right? Whether it be a mentor, whether it be a coach, whether it be a podcast, whether it be a book. I mean, look at how much work that you did going into Barnes and Noble and just having a voracious appetite to learn, right? It would have been easy to say, no, I'm better than that. I'm not going to do that. But you got out of your own way and you did it. You took responsibility.
Yeah, at the end of the day, like, you've got to put in the work and
Yeah.
you can't let anybody outwork you if you have that level of hunger to be great at what you do. Um, here's a just had it in my head. You made me think of something, but now it's gone. Like, okay, I'm of that age where like, okay, I gotta say something. I gotta say it now, or it's gonna leave. Lee, what was your question?
It was
Go back.
extraordinary. It was about self-responsibility.
Oh, so I tell sales leaders or people who aspire to be leaders, the number one thing that you can do to improve um, your sales influence, or not your sales influence, but your leadership influence, your ability to get people to buy in, is improving your ability to communicate. Here's the deal. There are programs all over the place that can teach you how to be a speaker. But
Yeah.
in America and worldwide, the most cost-effective leadership, personal development program out there? Toastmasters.
Yeah.
Toastmasters is, I don't know how much it is, and I don't work for Toastmasters, but my goodness, Toastmasters has a program designed to make you a more effective communicator and leadership. And if you invest in yourself, you show up in meetings, that development is evident. So
Yeah.
if you want to stay out, and here's another data point for you folks that love data. John C. Maxwell, one of the greatest authors on the topic of leadership there ever has been in the world. He's written over 100 books on the topic. One that stands out is everyone everyone communicates, few connect.
Mm.
He says in that book that your ability to communicate has more impact on your earning potential over the next 3 to 5 years than any other skill that you can develop.
Yeah.
The reason why I told folks at the beginning of this podcast, beginning our time together, that I wanted to take away those excuses. I am from Denison, Texas. Trust me, I have my country accent when I need it. Okay. All right. I played football, general studies degree, but it is the ability to communicate complex topics, complex um, subjects or concepts
Yeah.
in a way that someone who knows nothing about medicine can understand. That's what's made me successful. And what did I do to practice? When the early days of this field, you wanted to go in and talk to the doctor, but sometimes you can't talk to the doctor. I spoke to whoever was in front of me, nurses, MAs, front desk person.
Yeah.
You know why? I thought it was that important because I was very passionate about about helping someone.
Yeah,
So one, I needed the practice, and two, they needed to hear it, right? Because I thought it was that impactful. And you know what? It was usually the nurse or the secretary or the office manager who thought enough of this and said, you know what? I'm going to make sure you speak with Dr. So and so because they need to hear what you have to say. It is that my
yeah,
ability to communicate something in a way to somebody because as salespeople, you only know something as well as you can explain it to someone else and they can understand it.
that's
I don't
it.
care how smart you are.
Yeah,
If you're using a whole bunch of words, it doesn't help anyone. But if you make things relevant to the people you're talking to, that makes them care. That makes them buy in. That makes them trust.
yeah.
So it's really that ability that has made all the difference in the world and why I am so bullish on aspiring sales leaders to develop this skill of speaking, public speaking, speaking in front of crowds, understanding how to give a speech that causes
Mm,
other people to become inspired and move.
yeah,
Um, you want people to move when in business. That's why you use emotion. I have a subject in my book that says you got to use an emotional crowbar sometimes in sales. It's a sales technique.
that's it.
Not everybody has the courage to do it.
I love that. I love that. And the fact that that example where you're talking to anybody that, and respectfully, anybody that would listen, it's not then treating those people as to where they sit on the hierarchy. It's being of value to those people and leaving an impression to the point that when you leave, you would have had nurses, you would have had office managers actually talking about you that would have increased the level of credibility in the eyes of the key contacts you wanted to get access to, which I guess, well, not guess, I believe would have increased the opportunity of them now wanting to speak to you because of how you've made those people feel.
Absolutely.
It's
With
brilliant.
salespeople who listen to your platform, listen, if you can explain what you do to your wife or your grandmother or your children, you've got to be a really good salesperson.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. So, Rome, hey, this has been a phenomenal conversation. I know you've got to go and pick your daughter up. So for people who are listening to this, want to learn more about you, get access to your book, also plug into your podcast. Where's the best place for them to connect and to learn more about yourself and what you do?
So I would direct you to my website, romemadison.com. From there, you can see my keynotes, my books, my products that I have, and how we could possibly connect if you've got an organization where you want to pour into your leaders to increase their confidence because all success and failure begins and ends with leadership, and then more confident leaders builds a more confident organization, and that raises the bar of positive peer pressure to perform and compete. Because the
Yeah,
more you expect, the more you get ready for. So you go to romadison.com and check that out. Now,
cool.
my podcast is called Genetics for Healthcare. It's a little departure, but my background with building the precision medicine, industry, I'm now targeting the lay audience. I've built companies, I've created best practices, in the field, but there's a big gap in patient access, and that's what we're trying to solve by putting that type of content out there. But Darren, what I'm focused on now is helping other people who have been successful in their corporate, careers, those who are empty nesters, those who know that they have still have peak earning years ahead of them, but may not
Mm,
be able to find an employer who feels the same way about you and your experience,
yeah,
helping them take control of their financial destiny through entrepreneurship. And my goodness, I don't know how things are down there, but AI and the opportunities that we have never been more abundant in our lifetime. So there are so many opportunities other than waiting for someone to recognize your value. Have
mm,
the confidence to own your value and define it in the marketplace and go out and start your business. And no matter what
love it.
business that is, we offer strategy coaching. And I would like to direct everyone to um, iwantmorenow.com. it's a good place to start because when you go there, you can see a product that I'm offering at no cost for those who sign up to my emailing program to stay on board and keep up with things that we've got. But there is an audio program called Everyday Star Power, the 12 the 12-step confidence algorithm. So go to iwantmore.com, sign up, and you will get that 12-step confidence algorithm to prepare you to be in the mindset and to create a strategy to create the life that you really want to live.
Love it. Brilliant. Love that. Mate, I will put that on the show notes, and I'll certainly encourage people to connect with you, check you out on your website, and go to that particular landing page and download it. Also to plug into your podcast, and I'll also throw in your LinkedIn profile as well, just
Yeah,
while we're
I'm
at it.
most active on LinkedIn.
Yeah,
So if you want to connect with me, that's a great place to do it.
awesome, awesome. Rome, it's been an absolute pleasure. As we're recording this, it's mid-December. This is probably coming out in January, so. Thank you so much. I wish you all the best over the holiday season, and keep up the fantastic work. And I look forward to watching the progress as you continue to dominate the world in terms of putting the message out. So thank you so much for being such a great guest on the Exceptional Sales Leader podcast.
Thank you, Darren. It's my pleasure.
Appreciate it. Thank you for listening to the Exceptional Sales Leader podcast. I trust the information in this episode has been helpful in your journey towards becoming exceptional. And remember, please take the time to rate the show, subscribe to the show so other people can find it. But also, if I can help you, jump on my calendar, go to leadwithdarren.com, and let's have a conversation about how I can help you along your journey to being exceptional.